Hebrews, Hebrews, Hebrews. This is our Prophets of Awakening. This is our evening Sabbath class, closing out our Sabbath for the 24th of September, 2022. We're going to pick up from when we left off this morning in our Bible reading out of the book of Leviticus, Uncovering. I'm asking everybody to like, share, subscribe to Prophets of Awakening channel. Hit the notification button if you like the content. This is a non-Messianic channel. We deal with the Tanakh and the Torah. The Tanakh is the Old Testament, so-called Book of Remembrance, and the Torah is the first 5 books of the Old Testament that was given to Moses on Mount Sinai by the Lord of Hosts. Check out our videos on Prophets of Awakening. There's a lot of information given, and the videos will connect dots for you, those who are seeking the truth, and bring you into the truth of the Scriptures. And with that being said, I want to say shalom to Prophets of Awakening and welcome to our evening Sabbath class. We're going to do our normal, which is moment of silence, a Sabbath prayer, our evening Sabbath prayer, Psalms, some current events, and then a little need to know information. And we'll open up for some Q&A. Then we'll go into our Bible reading, our Bible lesson. That's dealing with chapters 3 and 4 out of Leviticus. Okay, the moment of silence is for the Lord of Hosts and all that He's doing to bring about our prophesied deliverance from the lands of that we've been scattered among our enemies. Okay. And with that being said, okay, do our Sabbath prayer. Okay. O Lord, I pray unto the Lord my God, and we make our confessions, O Lord, the great and dreadful God, keeping covenant and mercy to them that love thee and to them that keep thy commandments. O Lord, righteousness belongeth unto thee, but unto us a confusion of face as it is this day, to the men of Judah and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and unto all Israel that are near and that are far off, through all the countries whither thou hast driven us, because of our trespass that we have trespassed against thee. As it is written in the laws of Moses, all this evil has come upon us in the land of our captivity, here in the Americas, Caribbean, Great Britain, and Africa. O Lord, according to all thy righteousness, I beseech thee, let thine anger and thy fury be turned away from thy city Jerusalem and thy people and thy holy mountain. O Lord, hear this prayer and cause thy face to shine upon thy sanctuary and thy people for your sake. O Lord, open thine eyes to incline thine ears to hear and to behold our condition. O Lord, hear. O Lord, forgive. O Lord, hearken and do, and defer not for thine own sake. For we need you so very much at this hour. Peace be unto you. Okay? With that being said, we're going to do a little real Psalms. Okay? We're going to read Psalms 60. I'll read Psalm 68. It's a Psalm of David. It's God has gone before his people. Let God arise. Let his enemies be scattered. Let them also that hate him flee before him. As smoke is driven away, so drive them away. As wax melted before the fire, so let the wicked perish at the presence of God. But let the righteous be glad. Let them rejoice before God. Yea, let them exceedingly rejoice. Sing unto God. Sing praises to his name. Extol him that rideth upon the heavens by his name, Jah, and rejoice before him. A father of the fatherless, and a judge of the widows, is God in his holy habitation. God sitteth the solitary in families. Sitteth the solitary in families. He bringeth out those excuse me, are bound with chains, but the rebellious dwell in a dry land. O God, when thou went forth before thy people, and thou didst march through the wilderness, Selah, the earth shook, the heavens also dropped at the presence of God. Even Sinai itself was moved at the presence of God, the God of Israel. Though thou, O God, didst send a plentiful rain, whereby thou didst confirm thine inheritance when it was weary. Thy congregation have dwelt therein. Thou, O God, hast prepared of thy goodness for the poor. The Lord gave the word. Great was the company of those that published it. Kings of the armies did flee apace, and she that tarried at home divided spoil. Though ye have lain among the pots, yet shall ye be as the wings of a dove covered with silver, and your feathers with yellow gold. When the Almighty scattered kings in it, it was white as snow and solemn. The hill of God is as the hill of Bashan, a high hill as the hill of Bashan. Why leap ye high hills? This is the hill which God desired to dwell in. Yea, the Lord will dwell in it forever. The chariots of God are 20,000, even thousands of angels. The Lord is among them, as in Sinai, in the high place, holy place. Thou hast ascended on high. Thou hast led captive. Thou hast received gifts for men. Yea, for the rebellious also, that the Lord God dwelleth among them. Blessed be the Lord, who daily loadeth us with benefits, even the God of our salvation. Selah. He that is our God is the God of salvation, and unto God the Lord belong the issues from death. But God shall wound the head of his enemies, and the hairy scalp of such a one as goeth on still in his trespasses. The Lord said, I will bring again from Bashan, I will bring my people again from the depths of the sea, that thy foot may be dipped in the blood of thy enemies, and the tongue of of the dogs in the same. They have seen thy goings, O God, even the goings of my God, my King, in the sanctuary. The singers went before, the players on the instruments followed after. Among them were the dancers playing with tambourines. Bless ye God in the congregation, even the Lord, from the fountain of Israel. There is little Benjamin with their rulers, princes of Judah and their council, princes of Zebulun and the princes of Naphtali. Thy God hath commanded thy strength. Strengthen, O God, that which thou hast wrought for us, because of thy temple at Jerusalem shall kings bring presents unto thee. Rebuke the company of spearmen, the multitude of the bulls, the calves of the people, till every one submit himself with pieces of silver, scatter thou the people that delight in war. Princes shall come out of Egypt. Ethiopia shall soon stretch out her hands unto God. Sing unto God, ye kingdoms of the earth. O sing praises unto the Lord, Selah. To him that rideth upon the heavens of heavens, which are of old. Lo, he doeth send out his voice, and that a mighty voice. Ascribe ye strength unto God. His excellency is over Israel, and his strength is in the clouds. O God, thou art the terrible out of the holy place. The God of Israel is he that giveth strength and power unto his people. Blessed be God. So that was Psalm 68. God has gone before his people. It's a Psalm of David. Anybody got any comments on that? Okay. Okay, let me see. It says verse 7. of Psalm 68 says, O God, when thou wentest forth before thy people, when thou didst march through the wilderness, Selah. So that reminds me of Exodus chapter 23. Like I was saying this morning, you know, they're not looking at this as literal, but the Bible is telling you that everything that's going on is literal. So when it says that he marched before them and he went through the wilderness, so that's Deuteronomy 28 when the Israelites was in the wilderness. So who is this God that's going before them? So in Exodus 23, right? In Exodus 23 and verse 20 says, this is Yahweh, the Creator, talking to Moses, and he tells Moses in verse 20, behold, I send an angel before thee to keep thee in the way and to bring thee into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, obey his voice, provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgression, for my name is in him. So we see right here, it's an angel that the Israelites walking with, that's amongst them, that's leading them, and he tells them, the Israelites at Mount Sinai, to watch over this angel, to be submissive to this angel, and whatever he say that comes out of his mouth, that the Israelites must do. Okay? And a lot of people not getting that. They're too busy trying to put JC there, but the whole time it's already somebody there. It's already the Redeemer there. Somebody that's already a mediator that's with them. Matter of fact, that's who Noah walking with. That's who came in the cool of the day to talk to Adam, and Enoch walked with. So it also says another place, uh, says in verse 24 of Psalm 68, they, the Israelites, have seen thy goings, O God, even the goings of my God and my King in the sanctuary. Right? 25, the singers went before, and players of instruments followed after. Among them were the dancers playing with tamarines. So what it's telling you, he right there with him. They didn't seen him, right? And we was reading this morning in Leviticus chapter 2 about the tabernacle of witness. That tabernacle of witness is within the temple, and is where the Lord, they see the Lord, they where they see the Lord at in the Holy of Holies, right? So it says right here, talk about the Levites. We was reading this morning about how the Levites he separated Levites from everybody else, and they served him in the temple. They served along with him in the temple. So we in Isaiah right quick. We'll move on. Isaiah uh, Isaiah 43. Okay, Isaiah 43. Like I said, everything's literal, but we can't see that because of what has been done with the New Testament. So we says in verse 43 and 10, it's the same angel that the Lord told Moses was going to be walking before them to lead them into the promised land and to protect them, their Redeemer. So verse 43 and 10, ye are my witnesses, says the Lord, and my servant whom I have chosen, that ye may know and believe me and understand that I am he. Before me there was no God formed. So we know Yahweh wasn't formed. So angels was formed, 7 of them. It says, before me there was no God formed, neither shall there be after me. So when you break that down, 43 and 10 says, ye are my witnesses. Ain't but talking about at the tabernacle of witness, and it's the Levites. Because he continue on and says, ye are my witnesses, said Lord, and my servant whom I have chosen. So what is he talking about? He chose the Levites and Aaron's seed are from among the nations, are from among the tribes of Israel to himself. They don't have no inheritance. He their inheritance. So when he talking in verse 10, 43 and 10, he's saying, ye, Levites, you see me, you dealing with me in the temple. You my witness, who I am. You see me in the temple. You dealing with me in the temple. Right? Then he says, and my servant whom I have chosen, that ye may know and believe me and understand that I am he, before me there was no God formed, neither shall there be after me. Even I am the Lord, and besides me there's no Savior. And we've been over this 1,000 times. He's telling you he's the Savior, he's the Redeemer. He's not trying to be God Almighty of the universe. He's telling you that he's Israel, he's the Savior of Israel, he's the Redeemer. Every time Israel got in the bind, when they was in Egypt and when they was under captivity in the Philistines and the Moabites, he the one that came and delivered them. He came in the fiery furnace, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and delivered them. When we all know who that was, it was an angel that came in, and it's an angel that came to Moses on the Mount burning bush. So he's telling you right here, when you write and divide the scriptures, get the proper understanding that it's me. It ain't, I'm the first one that was formed. First one that the Creator formed before anything. Not Jesus, but him. Okay? Yeah, so we're gonna keep moving on. Anybody got any comments on that? Okay. We're gonna go to some current events. Okay.
In the next few days, all U.S. supply chains could be stopped by a looming rail strike that's threatening to halt shipments of critical materials to the industry sector, worsening shortages, exacerbating inflationary pressures, and even more alarmingly, affecting you, the end consumer. If a deal isn't reached by tomorrow, over 100,000 rail workers could walk off their jobs, sparking enormous disruptions all across the country, and plunging U.S. ports into total chaos right as we approach the busiest shipping season of the year. Executives say we're on the verge of a full-blown crisis that will not only be catastrophic for businesses and shoppers, but of serious repercussions for the entire economy. Now we've got a lot to cover today, but before moving on, please support our work by leaving a thumbs up in this video and subscribe to our channel so you can stay up to date with the most important news. Just as we thought things were finally getting calmer on supply chains, a perfect storm begins. A potentially disastrous rail strike with dire consequences that will cascade through the entire economy is about to burst as Congress and unions face a stalemate in the negotiations of working contracts for 125,000 freight and rail workers. According to Business Roundtable Chief Executive Officer Joshua Bolten, supply chain issues would be geometrically magnified by the rail strike, and that's not just the occasional Amazon box showing up 2 days later than it should. These are critical materials, he emphasized. Typically, over 30% of the items transported in the U.S. are shipped by train, and as soon as tomorrow, those trains could stop indefinitely in their tracks. The stoppage could halt the delivery of a wide range of essential supplies, including chlorine, to keep the water we use and consume daily clean. The trains also carry everything from the food on your dinner table to this year's Halloween costumes, metals for industry, auto parts, chemicals, fertilizers, and a series of other commodities. And if a deal isn't closed by Friday's deadline, we could witness the largest strike of such a kind since 1992. It would also cause travel chaos for thousands of commuters while sending transportation costs through the roof. Industry executives say that the workers' walkout could cost the world's biggest economy more than $2 billion a day. In a letter to Congress, American Trucking Association's president Chris Spear said if all 7,000 long-distance freight trains available in the U.S. stopped running, the country would need an extra 460,000 long-haul trucks daily to make up for the lost capacity, which isn't possible because of equipment availability and driver shortages. The trucking industry, dealing with labor issues of its own, faces a deficit of 80,000 drivers nationwide, he wrote. As such, any rail service disruption will create havoc in the supply chain and fuel inflationary pressures across the board. On top of that, such an outcome would result in a spike in the price of diesel to record highs, which would consequently push gasoline prices up as well, reversing the latest declines. John Brennan III, a former senior counsel for the Union Pacific Railroad, pointed out during a recent interview that when the last rail strikes occurred in the early 1990s, Congress passed settlement resolutions within 24 hours, but that isn't likely to happen this time around. The partisan divide in Congress today, along with the upcoming midterm elections, could make it very difficult to pass settlement legislation before midnight on Thursday, when a work stoppage would be permitted under the law, he says. Expedited passage of this legislation requires unanimous consent, and one senator or congressman on either side of the aisle looking to gain political points will be able to hold this up. The possibility for theatrics is endless. With inflation, it noted. A day or two, it's not something that we're going to feel that much, said Washington University St. Louis business professor Panos Kouvelis. But if we start talking about a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, it's going to be really serious. The average consumer is going to be particularly hard hit, experts said. What consumers may be faced with is empty store shelves and rising prices for the goods that remain on the shelves, alerted Neil Bradley, Executive Vice President and Chief Policy Officer of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. And if it goes on too long, workers in other sectors could lose their jobs. You're talking about factory shutdowns, Bradley continued. And so this is not just going to have an inconvenience for consumers. At some point, we will start to quickly see the trickle down and other people losing their jobs because of this national rail strike. For the workers, all of that disruption is exactly the point. It's time for the United States to recognize the fact that it can't fully function without trains and the workers who operate them. Engineers and conductors spent the entire pandemic working nonstop to keep the nation running, even when everything was shut down. But these people have been pushed to their breaking points, and they're urging authorities to concede them better working contracts. Oftentimes they work 14 days in a row. They aren't allowed to get sick days. They don't have set weekends. They're usually penalized when they miss work, even if it's for a doctor's appointment or family emergency. Those conditions fuel a high turnover rate, further straining workers. The average American would not know that we get fired for going to the doctor. Dennis Pierce, president of the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and Trainmen, told the Washington Post. We have guys who are punished for taking time off for a heart attack and COVID. It's inhumane, Pierce reveals. And while the impasse persists in Congress, port congestion continues to intensify on both coasts. Shippers have shifted cargo to East Coast ports in hopes of avoiding congestion that has clogged West Coast ports over the last 2 years. As of August, the Port of New York and New Jersey said it had handled an outstanding rise of 34% in cargo volume compared to a year prior. But as shippers diverted freight east, congestion moved along with it. At this point, congestion is spreading everywhere. The latest analysis of CNBC's supply chain heat map shows that the number of ships waiting outside East, West, and Gulf Coast ports is rising by the dozens every day. The traffic.
Okay. Any comments on that? Long. Okay. Got another one right here.
"2,000 naval men died on the high seas trying to stop slavery. Why? Because the African kings were rounding up their own people. They had them on cages waiting in the beaches. No one was running into Africa to get them. And I think you're totally right. If reparations need to be paid, we need to go right back to the beginning of that supply chain and say who was rounding up their own people and having them handcuffed in cages."
What's up, family? This is your man, not your boy. Go Black to Africa. So, I want to show you all this video because here it is, this European woman who is stating that the people of European descent deserves reparations and that the Africans were responsible for the slave trade. That those who were affected should go to Africa and get their reparations. Take a look at the video. I'll be back.
I think you're right about reparations in terms of if people want it, though, what they need to do is you always need to go back to the beginning of a supply chain. Where was the beginning of the supply chain? That was in Africa. And when across the entire world, when slavery was taking place, which was the first nation in the world that abolished slavery? The first nation in the world to abolish it. It was started by William Wilberforce, was the British. In Great Britain, they abolished slavery. 2,000 naval men died on the high seas trying to stop slavery. Why? Because the African kings were rounding up their own people. They had them on cages waiting in the beaches. No one was running into Africa to get them. And I think you're totally right. If reparations need to be paid, we need to go right back to the beginning of that supply chain and say who was rounding up their own people and having them handcuffed in cages. Absolutely. That's where they should start. And maybe, I don't know, the descendants of those families where they died.
Oh, travel, how we've missed you. Except for
they died in the high seas trying to stop the slavery, that those families should receive something too, I think, at the same time.
What do you think? I said this time and time again since the movie or the announcement of the woman king would come out, that they're going to place blame on the Africans for the cause of slavery. This is where they are going to sit here and say that we were the ones who brought in slavery and should be responsible. You know, to this day over in Europe, those who were part of the slave trade, that when slavery ended, those people who were in the business of slavery got reparations. Look it up. But now here today, we're seeing movies come out. We're seeing casting blames across the board that Africans are the ones who were responsible for this. Let me tell you, there was no such thing as selling a slave. European money did not do anything back then in Africa. There was no money. So they traded. And they traded because of the fact that in Africa, in a kingdom, when the tribes would have maybe tribal wars, they would go ahead and have prisoners of war. They also had a judicial system. You commit a crime, you got to do the time. So this was another means of having people to work off their crime. The other thing they had was if you owed a debt. These things here, you were subject to a system for a period of time, but yet released. Well, you can imagine if you got prisoners of war, people who's committed crimes and all that there, just like Ireland did and sent all their criminals over to Australia, the Africans saw it fit that they would go ahead and release these people by trading them over to the Europeans, not knowing that the devastation that would happen with a people. Until the word got out of what was happening, the raping, the maiming, the murdering, the held in captivity, is when the Africans begin not to get out of that trading of Africans, because their mentality was totally different than the Europeans' mentality. Africans were not doing the heinous crimes that Europeans were doing against our brothers and sisters, our ancestors to be exact. But this woman here in this video is surmising that we should go to Africa for reparations. That Europe, those who were in the boats, in the ships coming to Africa, who lost their lives, the European ones that were on the ships in the slave industry, their families should be reparated, given reparations. Have you heard such ridiculous things? This is the problem when I talk about the movies that come out, that you all think is just entertainment, but is a message trying to start a narrative that Africans were responsible for slavery. Family, if we don't educate our youth, we will continue to allow those to create stories and create a history that are lies. Why is it that we see these slavery stories that are making us the bad people? Harriet Tubman, the villain was what? This guy called Bigger. Doesn't it sound familiar? Who was out bounty hunting for her. The guy name never existed. Can't even find it in history that they had anybody black hunting for her. Now you got this.
Okay. Any comments?
Man, that is crazy.
You got some?
That is crazy. So she just trying to flip the whole story. They're never accountable for anything. They
Right.
always want to look like they are the best people there is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Right.
Come on,
Like you
man.
said, about the lies. The lies. It don't stop right there. Look at all the lies in the New Testament, in religion. So you got a point with that. Anybody else? Okay, I got a little need to know information right here.
And this video comes by request by a viewer named Jewel. And the discussion is about those that are buying passports, getting passports and getting out of here, fleeing the country. And I believe it was because of the video I did on Ghana as to why a lot of people are a little upset right now, because the U.S. military is setting up base over there. And many of us, we got the memo that there was a policy in place that those of us who are descendants of those brought over here in slave ships, that we can return back to Ghana. And so many of us were excited about that. We know people have actually moved over there. We know some who have visited and they love the area. And so when you hear something like that, you're like, wow, oh, we can come back. They'll give us free land. But the problem is this. As this viewer stated, not everyone has money to leave.
All right, so here's a quick quiz. Which one of the following foods is absolutely
Not everyone has money to leave. It's easier said than done, especially if you have a family. You can't just up and go to another country. There's a lot of loopholes. There's a lot of money that's needed and a lot that you need to do, you see. And so she wanted me to expound on that very fact that not everyone can leave. But before I do that, we need to understand that this world is dominated by the same people that are here in the US running things. So even if you do go to another area, and that area may not be as heavily dominated as the next area, but you can best believe that they have a foothold somewhere there. And if they don't, they are coming. As you see, you thought Ghana was free? No, no. They're trying to set up a military base, you see. And so that's what the issue is there. And so pretty much around this world, wherever you go, you're going to see some residue of the West. They are there somewhere running something, even in the remotest villages around the world. Trust me, they know where everyone is. Okay, that being said, those of you who live in the US and you don't have the means to just up and move to another country, there are things that you can do in your own area. Now, when you hear people say flee, get out of Babylon, I mean, if our safety and our salvation was based on our ability to afford it, it wouldn't seem fair, would it? It would not seem fair that the Most High would base it on your ability to afford it. Because these things were prophesied thousands of years ago. And so for it to be based on whether or not a person can afford to move to another country, the question still remains, where are you going to go? Where are you going to go? But for those that have to remain, you got to understand this. Some people can't even afford to move out of the city that they're in, nor the state, much less the country. So that whole flee Babylon idea is just simply not biblical in terms of where Babylon is. When the scripture talks about Babylon, it's not saying get out of America and go to this place or that place. That is not what it's referring to. But I would suggest for those like the young lady or the person, I'm not sure if it's a young lady or a young man, but the person who requested this video, as they stated, they live in an apartment. And so you have fewer choices when you live in an apartment as far as growing food and doing a number of things for preparation. This is why we continue to say that you have to find someone that you can unify with on some level. I'm going to say this. We used to be in real estate years ago, and there are state-owned, city-owned properties, county-owned properties that sometimes they are giving away dirt cheap. You just have to do the research in your county offices, your city offices, your state offices. Find out where their properties are, because many times they don't want to keep taking care of them as far as grass and all of that. Find out where these properties are, and you might be able to get a dirt cheap deal, unless you are going there to some major corporation that's already established that may have transferred you there. But if you're just a lay person and you're just like, I'm going to go put in an application when I get there and try to get a job, don't look at it like it's that simple, because it's not. Go there with a realistic plan. But for those who cannot afford to leave the country, who cannot flee, everyone's getting passports, but it still remains, where are you going to go? And when you get there, what are you going to do? How are you going to take care of yourself when you get there?
Okay. Any comments on that? Yeah, so they reading like I was saying before about rightly dividing the scriptures and reading it for the reading it right. We're gonna go to I think it's in Jeremiah, if I'm not mistaken. Anybody know what it said? Flee Babylon? in the Bible. I think it's in Jeremiah.
I couldn't hardly hear you. What you was looking for?
Flee Babylon. When you talk about flee Babylon, I think it's in Jeremiah. It's either in Jeremiah or Isaiah. You may want to Google it. So let me see. I think it's in Isaiah. But, yeah, it's in Isaiah.
Is it Jeremiah 51:6?
Let me see. Okay. Jeremiah. Okay. 51:6. Yeah, it says, okay, verse 51, Isaiah 51, verse 5 says, for Israel have not been forsaken, for Israel have not been forsaken, nor Judah of his God, of the Lord of hosts. Though their land was filled with sin against the Holy One of Israel. 6, flee out of the midst of Babylon and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquity, for thus is the time of the Lord's vengeance. He will render unto her a recompense. So look at that. So just those two verses right there is telling you that Israel went into captivity. I told you, Jeremiah told them they was going into Babylon because of what they did, the 70 years, for the 490 years that they didn't keep the Sabbath, the year release, the Sabbath year, to allow the land to rest. So they had to do those, they had to be taken out of the land and allow it to rest for 70 years. So they went to Babylon. Now it's time, and the Most High told them before they went, I'm going to send you to Babylon. The Chaldeans going to come here and tear this place up, burn it down, take you to Babylon, and then I'm going to punish them for what they did to you. And then I'm going to bring you back here. So that time came. The 7 years is up. And he says in verse 5, for Israel, and Israel, like I was saying, when you understand that when they left, a remnant was left in the land of Israel. So when you understand it, all the Israelites had to do was look back. Wherever captivity they're in, wherever lands they're in, if they can look back to Israel and see that it's a remnant of Israelites there, they know he's going to bring them back. So we know it's a remnant in Israel at that time. So he tells them right here in verse 5, for Israel have not been forsaken. Why? Because there's a remnant there. He ain't cast them all the way off like he did when Antioch Epiphanes came, but he's a remnant left there. So they haven't been forsaken. They haven't been given all the way up. So he says, nor Judah of his God, of the Lord of hosts, though their land was filled with sin against the Holy One, though they sinned against him, when the Chaldeans took them out, ran them out, they left a remnant, even though they had sinned against him. That's what he's telling them right there. Then verse 6. So he said, flee out of the midst of Babylon. Why? And deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquity, for this is the time of the Lord's vengeance. He will render unto her a recompense. So what they did, what the Chaldeans did, the Babylonians did when they came to Jerusalem, now he's going to do it to them. So he's telling them, leave Babylon. He ain't talking about no Babylon, symbology, Babylon today and all this bull crap. They in Babylon. This Jeremiah. Jeremiah ain't talking to us. Isaiah ain't talking to us. But from the way they concocted the New Testament, they got you thinking he's talking about today. But he's talking about Babylon, the Babylon that's in the four beasts. When he told Nebuchadnezzar that he was the head. He was the first beast out of the four. Ain't no other Babylon. They in Babylon. They've been there for 69 years. They at the 70th year, it's time for them to go. So we're telling them, What I told Jeremiah, I'm finna do it. I'm finna punish these Chaldeans. So you need to get up out of here. Same way he sent the angels, the two angels, to Sodom and Gomorrah. Told him to go ahead before he get there and get Lot out of there. And his children and his wife, because if he don't, they're gonna get caught over what I'm finna do. And the same thing right here. It ain't got nothing to do with no fast forward to the future. You're off track when you do that. Okay. Anybody else got any comments on that? Okay. We're gonna open it up for some Q&A and any comments or anything you heard or came across in your studies that you want to bring up. Let me see what Mark here talking about. I think it's Jeremiah 51 and 45. Let me see. Jeremiah 51 and 45. Okay. 51 and 45 says, my people, go ye out of the midst of her and deliver ye every man his soul from the fierce anger of the Lord. Right, exactly. That's just a second witness. That's all it is. So it ain't nothing symbolic about that or esoteric. He's telling them simply what they in captivity in Babylon, just like Jeremiah told them. And now he's getting ready to punish the Babylonians, the Chaldeans, for what they've done. So he's telling them to get out of there. That's all. Ain't nothing big or that you got to go search out and figure out, you know. if you read it like you're supposed to, you can see what's going on. Okay. Anybody got any comments or any questions or comments about anything they heard or came across? Okay.
I just right quick, just a quick little thing I was reading, chapter 50, right? So 50 and 34, right? As you have explained to us so many times about our Redeemer, right?
Right.
And this verse is just sticking out to me as I was reading that, is that, when people say there's no one else besides Yah, right? And I was listening a little bit in a clubhouse room today, and that's what they were saying, right? That you are worshiping, someone else. You're not right. You should only be worshiping Yah. But it says right here in 34, their Redeemer is strong. The Lord of hosts is his name, right? He shall thoroughly plead their cause, that he may give rest to the land and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. So they are saying, even when it says Lord of hosts, that is referring to Yah.
Right.
And when you listen to that, it's like they are not reading this, the scriptures correctly.
Right. Exactly.
And that just stuck out to me. For some reason, I just glanced over there and was reading that, and I was like, wow, listening to a clubhouse room today. And, even though they're OT only, they're still not reading the scriptures correctly.
Right. Exactly. They say they can shed it, JC, but they ain't shedding the JC because they still following the narrative. That's how you got so many brothers now. They walking all on top of the truth, don't even know it. They know all this different other stuff, but they can't see what JC is, and they don't know how to get him out of their system, how to get him out of the equation. So rather than not get him out the equation, they keep on trying to incorporate it, and then they caught up on numbers, and they eager for somebody to listen to them. See what I'm saying? When you go back to the prophets, they ain't how they operate. You're gonna conform, or you ain't gonna conform. Because behind that prophet and behind what he was told to bring is drama coming. The Lord host coming. So you can fumble with it, do whatever you want to do with it. That's how that works. You're not sitting around trying to get no numbers. You know, it's that simple.
Right.
Okay, that's what they caught up on. They trying to get. They are, like I said, they haven't disconnected from Christianity. Christianity is about getting numbers, and getting members, and getting people to, people, what they call it, tithing. That's what it's all about. And, so that's a system that these Greeks and Romans set up. And Antiochus, even the Vikings, they was going around robbing monasteries. They knew that's what brought the Vikings to Great Britain. They knew the monasteries, that the Christian monasteries that they had money in it. Because they had devised a plan how to get the people money. Like they say, the Indians looked up and they standing there with a Bible in their hand, but the Christians got all the land and got all their wealth. They just standing there with a Bible. They got duped. Okay, yeah. Then they came, when it came to us, we got over here. They gave us a slave Bible. Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and all them wasn't even in that Bible. Okay, because they know when we started reading those particular books, like I said, they talking to Israelites. We was gonna peep it out. So they excluded those books, just like they took out Enoch and Jasher and all those books. Okay, ain't that something?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna play this right here, and then we're going to. I'm gonna read a couple of chapters out of Leviticus, and we'll close out. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about the Church of England. And actually, this has been on my mind for a while, especially with Queen Elizabeth's passing. We always hear talk of the Vatican and their role in slavery, but we have rarely spoken a lot about the Church of England's role in slavery, and it's quite big. And don't think because the Vatican has so much of our information that the Church of England don't. They do too. People that trade you to this magnitude definitely have your stuff. So we're going to talk about their role and why it should never be overlooked. Now, this is the Archbishop of Canterbury. And we don't care about their titles, for real. At the end of the day, they were all steeped in slavery. So the Church of England took money that they made during slavery to pay their pastors. Not only paid their salaries, but make sure they had a comfortable life. So they recently came out a few months ago to apologize for their ties to the transatlantic chattel slave trade. So it wasn't just the royal family. And before I even get heavily into that, it was Queen Elizabeth the first Queen Elizabeth, that ushered in slavery in the UK. And this Queen Elizabeth II that died, that's who she named herself after, or her mother did. All right. So it's not just a long legacy of slave trading for this royal family, which they got every dime of their wealth from. If it was not for slavery, they would never have been rich. And that is the truth. If you did it all by yourself, these folks, even here in America, wouldn't even be wealthy at all. And you don't do it by yourself even to this day. That's what you got these immigrants for. So you can miss us all with it. We did it by ourselves. You can miss us all. You don't even do it all by yourself even to this very day. That's why you love these immigrants pouring in over the border. So let's get into the Church of England, ladies and gentlemen. So the Church of England used money made by the slave trade to help pay the incomes of poor clergy in the 1800s. Justin Welby, the Archbishop of Canterbury, which you see in the picture, he was deeply sorry for the link to the transatlantic chattel slavery. No, they're not, y'all. No, they're not. You know, they're not even deeply sorry here in America. If it was not for slavery, Caucasians on this planet would not be in the state that they're in today. And that is globally. Globally. So the church commissioner who managed the Church of England, £9 billion plus endowment fund, which all came from slavery. $9 billion endowment fund. The origins of that fund came from slavery. So, ladies and gentlemen,
nature gives people a place for
and gentlemen, you know, this comes from a 4-page interim report published recently, and the funds partly originated in Queen Anne's Bounty, which was founded in 1704. Queen Anne Bounty invested a significant sum in the South Sea Company, which traded enslaved people. It also received numerous benefactions from individuals linked to or who profited from the transatlantic chattel slavery and the plantation economy. What did they have all over the US in the South? Plantations, all funded through the selling of Black men, women, and children. You did it by yourself. Yeah, you ain't even thinking by yourself. What do your kids do when they go to college? Get their papers and their courses done by Kenyans and Nigerians, but get up on that stage and collect that degree like they did it all by themselves. That seems to be your whole legacy. All right, y'all. So funding for the transatlantic slave trade and plantation economy. It don't say that the economy came from just one group of people. It says explicitly that it came from slavery, just like during chattel slavery here in America. When you go back and look at the history, it says the slave economy, the slave economy. It don't say, oh, this group of people's economy. It don't say that. It says slave economy. All right, y'all. So the South Sea Company became a significant participant in the slave trade during the early 1800s. over the course of at least 96 transatlantic voyages during this period. And now, do you see how that royal family got all their wealth? They didn't do nothing physically. They sold slaves. And I hope all of the nations that had slaves and you are part of the Commonwealth, you need to keep demanding your reparations from this royal family that earned everything off of Black people. All right, so they had 96 voyages of selling slaves. The South Sea Company purchased and transported human beings as chattel property. 34,000 enslaved people in crowded, unsanitary, unsafe, and inhumane conditions. Now, ladies and gentlemen, never forget, in 1713, the Brits sold 100,000 slaves to the Americas, including this land right here. Many of us could be the offspring of those slaves that were sent over here from the UK. But that's how many they sent to the Americas, to this land. All right. So among the benefactors to the Queen Anne's bounty, as Edward Colson. Now, some of y'all might remember the name Edward Colson. There was a statue of him that was knocked down during the George Floyd protest. Y'all might remember there was a protest. The protests were global regarding George Floyd's death. And they had a protest over in the UK and they tore down the statue. Many of you might remember because it did make the news. So he was a prominent slave trader whose statue in Bristol was toppled in 2020 during that protest. Queen Anne's bounty funds were used to pay a cash stipend to poor clergy to buy land from the clergy which received income. So these clergy members of the Church of England got money and land. All through slave money. Not money they went out there and personally worked and earned. They got this money from selling slaves. So when you look at the clergy at the Church of England, just remember their money and their land came from slavery. That's how they paid each other.
Okay, so let's look at that. Anybody got any comments on it? Okay, so I do this all the time, but it's appropriate for right now because of, like I said, you go to Matthew, right? Chapter 3, 2, I think it is. Matthew chapter 2, right? You can write it down, or you can go there, whichever one you want to do. So I'm in Matthew chapter 3, 2, right? In the verse 14 and 15, right? I'll show you this over and over again. It says, when he arose, talking about Jesus, when he arose and he took the young child and his mother by night departed into Egypt, right? And was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken of by the Lord of hosts, by the prophet, saying, out of Egypt have I called my son, right? So the Christian and the Catholic and all them, they're not going to never figure that out, what's going on with this right here, because they believe in the story. They believe in Jesus Christ and all that. But when you write it divided, you want to know who that prophet is, because that ain't how the creator work. In all the scriptures, we see he tell you who the prophet was that made the prophecy. That way you can go back and look at it, put your eyes on it. So they don't do that for a reason. But we found out who the prophet is, and that prophet is Hosea, right? Let's look at it. So when you go and look at that, right? Hosea chapter 11, verse 1, right? Hosea chapter 11, verse 1. This is the prophecy right here. When Israel was a child, then I loved him and I called my son out of Egypt. So we see all of the nation of Israel is the Most High Son. Same thing he told Moses to go tell the Pharaoh at the burning bush. Go tell the Pharaoh, let my son go so he can come and worship me. So the nation of Israel is his son. So you say, why am I showing you this? What the woman was just telling us, who they was trading. They was trading, they knew that. They was trading the Most High Son. That's what they was trading. That's the reason why they don't want you to know that Israel is the son. They hook winked it off and got you thinking it's a man. Jesus is the son. So let's go back based on what she was just telling us, and let's look at Isaiah 53. Okay, look at Isaiah 53, right? And we'll go to one more verse to another witness. So it says, who have believed our report, and to whom is the arm of the Lord revealed? These people they selling. Israel's son, all the nation of Israel. Our report to my Israelites, right? And then keep going. For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant, as a root out of dry ground, and he have no form nor comeliness. And when you shall see him, there is no beauty that you should desire him. So go to the Constitution. And we wouldn't even consider humans. And 13, 3, 53 and 3. He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief, and he hid as it were our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he hath borne our griefs, carried our sorrows, yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted. And we just read that in Numbers. Let's go there. The Numbers. Okay. Go to Numbers 18. See why they was afflicted. So 18, Numbers 18 and 1. And the Lord said unto Aaron, Lord of hosts, thou and thy sons and thy father's house with thee shall bear the iniquity of the sanctuary, and thou and thy sons with thee shall bear the iniquity, that's the sin of your priesthood, being two. And thy brethren also of the tribe of Levi, the tribe of thy father, bring thou with thee, that they may be joined unto thee and minister unto thee, but thou and thy sons with thee shall minister before the tabernacle of witness. So this is why all this going on. They don't want us to know who that is, that these people that they selling and they made all this money off of is the Most High Son. They got you looking off that the very son is sitting over here worshiping another concocted son. That's how deep the drama go. Just like I was showing you this morning about the man making this so-called Hebrew Israelite talking about that red heifer, that the 10th red heifer gonna be Jesus himself. How in the hell if you didn't establish that he's the sacrifice and he made the ultimate sacrifice, how he coming back with a red heifer to make a sacrifice when he made the ultimate sacrifice? That's how crazy this is. It's becoming. The more and more we wake up. Okay. So that's, like she said, it's billions of dollars that it made. They wouldn't have that money if they hadn't did what they did with us and traded us off and tricked us off. They wouldn't have that money. But the underlying fact is they got you looking at somebody else as a son when the whole time the very people they're making the money off of is the son. Okay? Any comments on that? Okay, anybody good? Yeah, so let that ferment. Okay. Well, I'm gonna read one chapter out of Leviticus before we close out. Chapter 3. Okay. Okay. Chapter 3 says the law of the peace offering. Okay. So it's chapter 3 of Leviticus. And if an oblation be a sacrifice of peace offering, if he offer it of the herd, whether it be male or female, he shall offer it without blemish before the Lord. And he shall lay his hand upon the head of his offering and kill it at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And Aaron's sons and the priests shall sprinkle the blood upon the altar round about. And he shall offer the sacrifice of the peace offering and the offering made by fire unto the Lord, the fat that covereth the inward, and all the fat that is upon the inwards, and the 2 kidneys. So see that you got how is he going to be? None of his bones ain't going to be broken. When you got to get the kidneys out of here, you got to get the fat out. You got to get the kidneys out. So how in the hell is this? None of his bones ain't going to be broken. Okay, say 4. It says, and the 2 kidneys and the fat that is on them, which is by the flanks, and the caul above the liver with the kidneys, it shall he take away, and Aaron's sons shall burn it on the altar upon the burnt sacrifice, which is upon the wood that is on the fire. It is an offering made by fire of a sweet savor unto the Lord. So I'm gonna give you something to think about. This is real ridiculous. So we see who the ministers in the temples, the people that the Most High used as the servants in the temple, they got to be Levites, right? They got to be Aaron's seed, and they got to be Levites. Okay, so let's just say JC is a sacrifice. The Levites ain't the one sacrificing. Dirty ass Romans sacrificed him. Let that ferment. Okay, verse 6 says, and if she offer for a sacrifice of peace offering unto the Lord, be of the flock, male or female, and he shall offer it without blemish. If he offer a lamb for offering, then shall he offer it before the Lord, and he shall lay his hand upon the head of his offering and kill it before the tabernacle of the congregation, and Aaron's son shall sprinkle the blood thereof. See that? Aaron's son wasn't at the cross. The Levites wasn't at the cross. They the ones in charge of the sacrifice. They're the ones ministering inside in the temple. Okay? And the sacrifice wasn't even in the damn temple. Okay? 9. And he shall offer the sanctuary of the peace offering and the offering made by fire upon the Lord, the fat thereof, and the whole rump. And shall he take off hard by the backbone, and the fat that covers the inwards, and all the fat that is upon the inwards, and the 2 kidneys, and the fat that is upon them, which is by the flanks, and the caul above the liver with the kidneys, it shall be taken away, and the priest shall burn it upon the altar. It is the food of the offering made by fire upon the Lord. And if his offering be a goat, then he shall offer it before the Lord, and he shall lay his hand upon the head of it and kill it before the tabernacle of the congregation. And the sons of Aaron shall sprinkle the blood thereof upon the altar round about. And he shall offer their own his offering, even an offering made of fire, by fire unto the Lord. The fat that covers the inwards, and all the fat that is upon the inwards, and the two kidneys, and the fat that is upon them, which is by the flank, and the curl, right above the liver with the kidneys, it shall he take away, and the priest shall burn them upon the altar. It is the food of the offering made by fire, for a sweet savor. All the fat that is the Lord's, right? So the Lord, the fat belongs to the Lord, right? It shall be a perpetual statute for generations throughout all dwellings, that ye eat neither fat nor blood. So let's look at that. 17 says, okay, this for the lowly Christian. 17, it shall be a perpetual statute. That means forever. Perpetual statute for your generations throughout all your dwellings, that ye eat neither the fat nor the blood. So let's go back. 15 for 14, and he shall offer thereof the heat is the priest, right? The Roman soldier, the centurion ain't no priest, right? See, and he shall offer thereof his offering, even an offering made by fire unto the Lord, and the fat that covers the inwards, and all the fat that is upon the inwards, and the two kidneys, and the fat that is upon them, which is by the flank, and the caul above that liver, which the kidneys are, with the kidneys, it shall he take away. So why should he take all that away, right? And the priest shall the priest shall burn them. All this what he just said upon the altar. It is food of the offering made by fire, for a sweet savor. All the fat is the Lord's. So all that belongs to the Lord. So what Lord? The Lord of hosts. So what part of the sacrifice, if JC was a sacrifice, what part of him that go to the Lord of hosts? Come on. What part he got? He was there from the very beginning all the way up to the point. If he the sacrifice, what part in that situation, in that process, that or the caul or the fat or any of that belong to him? Come on. So let that ferment. Anyway, anybody got any questions? Comments before we leave? Everybody good?
Oh, yes, sir. You said it then.
Okay, I'm gonna say shalom, and I'm gonna see everybody on Tuesday for 8 o'clock for our advanced Bible study. Until then, I'm gonna say shalom, shalom, and another shalom.
Shalom.